Have you ever wondered how a nation, left in ashes after the war, could rise so powerfully that it almost bought out the entire United States, only to suddenly freeze for 3 decades? Imagine a time so insane that the land value of the Tokyo Imperial Palace grounds alone was worth more than all the real estate in the entire state of California combined. That is not science fiction. That was the terrifying and fascinating reality of Japan in the late 1980s. Behind the durable Toyotas and the stylish Sony Walkmans lies the story of a currency that once challenged the dominance of the US dollar, created the largest financial bubble in human history, and left behind a painful lesson that still haunts economists to this day. Welcome to the story of the Japanese yen, JPY, the symbol of a miraculous rise and the lost decade. To understand the insanity of the 1980s, we must travel back to the 19th century. Before 1871, Japan did not have a unified currency. Under the Tokugawa shogunate, the country operated a feudal monetary system that was incredibly complex and chaotic. Hundreds of samurai clans, known as Han, issued their own paper money called hansatsu. Imagine going to the market to buy vegetables, but having to exchange currency every time you stepped into a different village. It stifled development and isolated Japan from the outside world. But everything changed with the Meiji Restoration. Realizing that to become a great power, Japan needed a modern economy, the Meiji government enacted the New Currency Act in 1871. They abolished local currencies and introduced the yen. In Japanese, en simply means a round object. The name was chosen to describe the perfect shape of machine-minted coins, a stark contrast to the distorted oval gold and silver ingots of the feudal era. The yen was initially pegged to the gold standard, modeled after the Spanish dollar, the most common trade currency in Asia at the time. 1 yen was equivalent to 1.5 grams of pure gold. This was not just a monetary change, it was Japan's declaration to the world. We are open, we are civilized, and we are ready for business. However, in its early decades, the yen constantly depreciated due to wars and trade deficits, making it a weak currency beside the Western giants. No one in the early 20th century could have guessed that this little round object would one day shake Wall Street to its core. The real turning point emerged from the ashes of World War II. In 1949, Japan's economy was completely devastated and inflation was high sky. The United States, as the occupying force, made a decision that would reshape world economic history. They fixed the exchange rate at 360 yen to 1 US dollar as part of the Bretton Woods system. Why 360? Some anecdotes say it was because a circle has 360 degrees. But the practical reason was to keep the yen super cheap, making Japanese goods extremely low priced in the international market. And this plan worked better than anyone expected. With this fixed rate, Japan became the world's export factory. From the 1950s to the 1970s, names like Toyota, Honda, Sony, and Panasonic began to invade American households. The phrase "made in Japan" transformed from meaning cheap junk to becoming a symbol of high quality and advanced technology. When the Bretton Woods system collapsed in 1971 and currencies were allowed to float, the yen began to appreciate, but Japan's momentum was unstoppable. We enter the 1980s, the golden age. This is when things got surreal. Japan became rapidly wealthy thanks to massive trade surpluses. Japanese corporations were flush with cash. They didn't just invest domestically, they started a global shopping spree. Mitsubishi bought Rockefeller Center, a symbol of New York. Sony acquired Columbia Pictures. In Tokyo, salarymen waved 10,000 yen bills to hail taxis, but drivers wouldn't even stop because they were too busy making money. Golf courses in Japan sold memberships for millions of dollars. The Japanese felt invincible, and the best-selling book of the time, titled Japan is #1, was not an exaggeration. But little did anyone know this lavish party was about to end. The fateful event that changed everything took place on September 22, 1985 at the Plaza Hotel in New York. The US, tired of its massive trade deficit with Japan, summoned the economic powers to sign the Plaza Accord. The goal was simple: force the yen to appreciate sharply so that American goods could compete again. And it worked, brutally. The value of the yen skyrocketed from 240 yen per dollar to 120 yen per dollar in less than 2 years. Japanese exports suddenly became twice as expensive. Factories suffered. The export-driven economy faced collapse. In a panic to save the economy from a recession, the Bank of Japan made a fatal decision. They slashed interest rates to record lows. They pumped cheap money into the market, hoping companies would use it to invest in production. But no, the cheap money didn't go into factories. It flowed straight into speculation. Why manufacture cars with thin margins when you could borrow money at low rates to buy land and stocks? Then, watch their value double in a few months. A new term was born, Zytec, financial engineering, where corporations made more money from speculation than from their core business. The bubble grew to absurd proportions. The Nikkei 225 index hit a historic peak of nearly 39,000 points on December 29, 1989. People believed Tokyo land prices would never fall, but the laws of gravity spare no one. Fearing inflation and an out-of-control bubble, the Bank of Japan suddenly raised interest rates sharply in 1990 to cool things down. They wanted a soft landing, but instead they caused a catastrophic crash. The stock market collapsed immediately. Real estate prices plummeted uncontrollably. Loans secured by land turned into massive bad debts. Banks went bankrupt in waves. People's wealth evaporated overnight. From the top of the world, Japan fell straight into the abyss. The party was over, and the bill to be paid was the country's entire future. After that explosion, Japan entered what is called the lost decade. But in reality, it stretched into 20, even 30 years. The greatest legacy this period left behind is the specter of deflation. Unlike inflation, rising prices, deflation is when prices continuously fall. It sounds good for buyers, but it is poison for an economy. Because people believe that goods will be cheaper tomorrow than they are today, they postpone spending. Businesses can't sell products, wages don't rise, and the economy stagnates. The saving is paramount mentality became deeply ingrained in the Japanese people. Another strange legacy is the yen's status as a safe haven. Although Japan's economy was stagnant, because interest rates in Japan were kept near zero for decades to stimulate demand, the yen became a source of cheap capital for the world. Investors borrowed yen, low interest, to invest in US dollars or euros, higher interest, a tactic known as the carry trade. Whenever the world faces turmoil, the 2008 financial crisis, the COVID pandemic, investors sell off risky assets and buy back yen to repay debts, causing the yen to paradoxically appreciate even when Japan is struggling. Additionally, the generation of Mrs. Watanabe, a term for Japanese housewives managing family finances, became a formidable force in forex trading, seeking returns overseas because domestic interest rates were too low. Today, when you look at Japan, you see a stable, safe society, but one lacking the explosive energy of the past. Japanese wages have barely risen in 30 years, while the population grows older. That is the price paid for the intoxication of the economic bubble. The story of the Japanese yen is not just numbers on an electronic board. It is a mirror reflecting the greed, arrogance, and survival efforts of a nation. From the ashes to the peak of the world, then falling into the depths of stagnation, the yen has taught the world a costly lesson. No party lasts forever, and artificial intervention in the market always comes with unforeseen consequences. Will Japan ever escape the shadow of the lost decade? With global inflation returning and the Bank of Japan beginning to make moves to change its historic negative interest rate policy, we may be standing before a new chapter for the yen. Will it rise again, or continue to fade into the oblivion of an aging power? That is a question only time can answer. What about you? What do you think about the rise and fall of Japan's economy? Would you dare to invest in the yen right now? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit like if you found this knowledge useful, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next fascinating economic story. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.